Hi, I'm Moira Crowell and this is Sean Crowell. We're the husband and wife team behind Loop Creative Limited.
We have over 25 years experience in product design and development.
As designers, we've won quite a few international design awards.
In 2010, we were living in Christchurch, New Zealand, when a major earthquake struck, destroying much of the inner city.
Since then, there have been over 13,000 aftershocks.
We understand from first-hand experience just how a disaster affects people and a community, family and friends.
We saw what happened when basic amenities like power, sewerage and water were suddenly gone for long periods of time.
And we saw how people adapted and improvised, using whatever materials they had at hand.
We now live in Auckland, where ironically we still have an insecure water supply as our house relies on rainwater.
We haven't had any sustained rain for 5 months.
For our drinking water, we fill up bottles from a tap at the local community centre.
Because of all this, we believe the water challenge is a worthy one, which brings us to our concept.
The original idea was to have a hollow plastic pallet that can be used to deliver water and when empty can be used for other things too.
To improve it, we've interviewed people from 3 different groups to get feedback: first responders, technical experts and users.
Kate Hillier is the General Manager of the Ellerslie International Flower Show in Christchurch. On the afternoon of 22nd Feb in 2011, there was a huge earthquake. She and her team suddenly found themselves as first responders and they had all the equipment but no experience to cope with the several thousand displaced people from the central city that suddenly turned up at the park.
They used the marquee tents set up for the flower show as emergency shelters, and they helped provide portable toilets, food supplies and a triage site. They had one functioning drinking fountain for water, and liquefaction had flooded very large areas, so 600 sheets of plywood were used to keep people off the ground.
Kate said, "Getting shelter is one of the most important things. People were going into shock. They were using marquee skins from us and they were lucky that they were available. Rain was the last straw for everyone. Just to get people off the ground would have been great. There was no insulation."
Kate asked us if the AguaPallet could provide some insulation.
She said, "People were utilising everything they could to get off the ground because it was so wet. We grabbed park benches from the bowling club, but they were very heavy."
She said the AguaPallet must be lightweight and asked if a pocket of some sort could be added for the cable ties.
The importance of shelter wasn't something we'd considered, but after talking to people we could see the value in it.
So we mocked up a quick prototype to see if it was practical. We built it using 2 Euro pallets, some bamboo and an old car cover.
It seemed to work okay, so we've decided to add features for shelter into the AguaPallet.
Next, we spoke to a technical expert, Mike Hill from Rotational Plastics Limited. Mike's company is a rotational moulding manufacturer with experience of making plastic pallets, high-impact crash barriers, and water tanks for storing drinking water.
They also supply rotationally moulded containers that are used in disaster relief kits by NGOs.
Mike provided expert guidance on budgets for prototype tools and material selection for drinking water use.
He also suggested some design changes to make tooling less expensive and provided samples of hardware that could be incorporated into our design.
Mike said the cheapest way to make a mould is to go with flat, mild steel sheet. He said the design was pretty doable as is, but the staggered part line was going to add some cost. He thought they would spin weld in a threaded bush for the inlets, and he suggested that the recessed grooves could be added for the cable ties so that if they were used they would sit flush.
We spoke to product designer Doug Olivia as a first 72 hours user.
Doug and Christina's house was located near a badly affected area in the Christchurch earthquakes. They spent a couple of weeks without a water supply and 4 months without a working sewage system.
They had good first-hand experience of the problems of getting regular water supplies from collection points. It was obvious that transportability was the key requirement. Water is very heavy. Doug thought that water collection should ideally be within a 1 to 2 kilometre walking distance.
He noted that the deeper into the affected areas you went, the worse the roads became, and the emergency help then rapidly dropped off.
Doug found that the centralised water collection points were a valuable reconnection place where information was exchanged and there was access to other assistance.
If the AguaPallet could make it easier to transport water, it would help bring people together, speeding up the recovery of the community as a whole. We next spoke to Jared Broad, who worked as an engineer for Malteser International in the aftermath of Typhoon Nargis in Myanmar in 2008.
He worked doing wash projects for the first 6 months. He then moved on to training local carpenters on how to design high-strength structures using local bamboo.
Jared gave us valuable insights into the logistical processes on delivering aid, from the initial air bridge right through to the final distribution in the field.
The key point is that you don't always have convenient transportation methods like this flat-bottomed landing craft which suits palletised goods. They may have to be carried.
Ease of transportation and flexibility at all points in the delivery chain will make a big difference.
Anna Zarkovic is a water engineer from the Red Cross. She said to us in an email, "What I like about the AguaPallet is that the relatively low weight of each unit means that no specialised machinery is required to transport it or load it onto some form of transport. This is particularly relevant in small, hard-to-reach communities that do not have machinery or facilities to accommodate trucks or boats with offloading equipment. I like it that it can transform into a reusable pallet. In my experience, pallets always come in handy to keep equipment off the ground during transport and use. I would be reluctant to take wooden pallets into an emergency situation as they are likely to create waste."
We took these comments on board and made a few design improvements. Doug, Kate, Anna and Jared all emphasised transportability or lightweight solutions. Water is heavy. The best way to meet this requirement was to add bicycle wheels at the point of balance, which turns the AguaPallet into a one-person handcart, potentially a stretcher.
We added tapered holes in the corners so poles or sticks can be jammed in to make a first 72-hour emergency shelter.
Kate, Doug and Jared also requested a pocket to store cable ties, water purification tablets and other accessories, so we added this.
The 2 bicycle wheels can be fitted to the sides of the AguaPallet without tools.
The tapered holes in the corners can also be used to jam in handles for the cart.
A hand cart will allow users to transport other goods as well as water, greatly improving the usefulness of the centralised distribution points.
Each AguaPallet contains enough water for a whole family for at least a day, approximately 65 litres.
This means women and kids will need to spend less time on daily survival tasks like gathering water, and that means the AguaPallet will help them transition to recovery much faster.
In summary, the main value of the AguaPallet is its usefulness within and beyond the first 72 hours. After its immediate use as a pallet, it provides shelter and an option for bulk movement and storage of water.
It improves community participation at collection points and creates opportunities to transport other goods for trade and recovery.
And finally, at the end of its emergency life, it still has residual value as a recyclable material to local entrepreneurs. It won't become waste.
For all of these reasons, we think that the AguaPallet should proceed into development. Thanks for listening.